I represent a new generation of workers.
In preschool, we often get asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I always aimed quite high.
First female president of the United States, obviously.
And this ambition was applauded. The formative years of your life are a chorus of reach for the stars and you can do anything if you believe in yourself. Then, at some point along the way, the switch flips. It doesn't happen overnight, which is why most of us probably don't even notice it. But at some point, this chorus of you can do anything becomes less and less encouraging. We are taught to think practically and realistically. And for some reason, we are also taught that being practical and realistic comes in direct contradiction of this you can do anything attitude.
But that's the difference between you and I and our teachers. We are a new generation of workers, and being practical and realistic doesn't necessarily have to come at the cost of our dreams and ambitions.
As of 2020, there are 4 generations of workers. First come the boomers and Gen X. Odds are that your parents and teachers are members of either of these 2 categories. To boomers and Gen X, a prototypical job looks like this. A cubicle, a desktop, and a landline, 8 hours per day, 5 days per week, 50 weeks per year. Oh, and a water cooler. But just because this ideal of working life is the one that most workers envision, it doesn't make it necessarily normal or correct. Rather, it's merely the status quo. Our great-great-grandparents didn't go to weekly board meetings or scarf down their lunch between sales calls. In fact, in 1860, as much as 80% of the US workforce was self-employed, usually as farmers.
So in a way, everyone was their own boss.
Flash forward to 1977, and that number had gradually plummeted to a mere 7%. Waking up every morning, putting on a suit and tie, sorry ladies, and going to the office encapsulated the American dream. At this time, our parents and our teachers were in high school, college, or just entering the workforce. And so this was the life that they envisioned. This was the ideal that a society built upon streamlined corporate productivity presented to them.
A lot of things have changed since 1977, like a lot of things, but has this standard of working culture changed?
Well, it depends who you ask. According to the 2019 Freelancing in America study, 40% of the millennial workforce ages 23 to 38 are freelancing.
Wait, freelancing?
To be freelance means an individual is self-employed and hired to work for different companies on particular assignments, rather than simply being a full-time employee of a single company. In other words, no cubicle, no landline, no water cooler. These constants of our parents' and teachers' working lives have instead been replaced by variables. Sure, you can work 9 to 5, but as a full-time freelancer, you can also work 12 to 8, or even 12 to 5. You can work in an office, but you can also work at home, or in a coffee shop, or honestly, anywhere else in the world you fancy.
Sounds pretty great, right? Why? Because a new normal is here. We are a new generation of workers.
We are Gen Z, and we are changing the status quo. Gen Z is comprised of those of us born between the years of 1996 and 2010, which means in 2020 we are starting to enter the workforce. We are graduating from high school and from college with priorities very different from those of our parents and our teachers. We don't want to sit in cubicles and drink Poland Spring from a shitty paper cup. We want freedom, we want flexibility, and we don't want it when we retire at 65. We just want it, period. Because, believe it or not, despite what your parents and teachers may have taught you, you don't have to choose between practicality and ambition. Being practical and realistic is not mutually exclusive with following your passions. And recognizing this is what distinguishes those who simply chase dreams from those who achieve goals. So whether you were born after 1996 or not, consider which generation of worker you want to be. And if you're not content to sit in an office cubicle for the rest of your working life,
you don't have to.
One of the most empowering aspects of the digital age is that we no longer need to physically sit in an office in order to collaborate with coworkers or consult clients. Instead, with nothing more than a smartphone, we can speak face-to-face with anyone at any time from nearly anywhere in the world. When you put it that way, it becomes pretty obvious that a typical office environment represents a former stage in the evolution of the workplace, and one that is slowly but surely dying out. It's time for us to evolve as well. But instead of looking forward, look back. Look back to a time when anything seemed possible and every goal attainable. Whether you're 18 or 22, 45 or 75, ask yourself,
what do I want to be when I grow up?